So you found out that you have the MTHFR mutation, and you've been experiencing symptoms like brain fog, chronic fatigue, and low mood. You were of course told that the solution is to take methylated B vitamins, things like methyl B12 and methylfolate. The problem is, when you take these supplements, they make you anxious, agitated, and just overall give you an activated or overstimulated nervous system. So what do you do next? Here I'm going to go ahead and answer some of the top root causes for why this may be the case and what you should be taking instead. All right, let's get to it. Hey there, I'm David, an integrative health practitioner that helps empaths and highly sensitive people thrive in body and mind. So I personally have the MTHFR C677T allele from both of my parents. So I have the most compromised methylation you can have. And this is one of the key pieces of my health puzzle. The problem with a lot of the MTHFR content out there is that it gives these like kind of blanket solutions without really filling it in with much nuance. And one of the top comments that I've been getting, or questions that I've been getting from clients as well as people watching my content, is what do I do if methylfolate or methylated B vitamins in general give me anxiety? So I want to go ahead and address what you should be taking instead, and then kind of lay out some of the top root causes so maybe you don't have to do those workarounds forever. So since you know you have the MTHFR mutation, you are probably aware that your B12 and B9 or folate metabolism are compromised. But if you're still unsure if you have MTHFR, go ahead and check out my video. There should be a link to it right here, which is the top signs of MTHFR. And it's pretty much a checklist as well as a little worksheet to kind of get a sense of if you may have the MTHFR mutation, as well as some resources to double or triple confirm that that's the case through genetic testing. So let's just cut to the chase. B12 and then B9 or folate, methylfolate are giving you anxiety. So what should you take instead? You want to swap your B complex with something called Hydroxo B12, as well as something called Folinic Acid. There's one company in particular that I recommend the product of. You can find it in the description below, called Seeking Health. It is formulated by the MTHFR guy himself, or the Dirty Genes guy, Dr. Ben Lynch. So I would definitely start with that. If there are other reputable companies that make a similar product, basically you're looking for that Hydroxo B12 and Folinic Acid. Go for it, by all means. But those are really the ingredients that you want to look for. In addition to that, because B vitamins are synergistic, we're always talking about, B12 and folate, right? But they are synergistic and they all work together is what that means. And so I'd also recommend a product called B-, which is just a B complex minus B12 and folate. So you can take that Hydroxo B12 as well as the folinic acid, and this would basically create a synergistic effect. So you really get the benefits of all the B vitamins. Okay, so now we got that out of the way. In addition to this kind of workaround, you could say, for your B complex, you may want to supplement with glycine as well. Why would you do this? Well, many times if you are having a reaction to B vitamins, you may also have lowered GABA activity. So, and this, I've actually proven this multiple times with my own neurotransmitter test, which if you are interested in doing a neurotransmitter test, not the most necessary test in the world, but if you're interested in it, it is in the description below. There's been a couple instances, especially in periods of high stress, where I wasn't optimizing my methylation particularly well, where I had low levels of GABA. And so what that meant for me was that I would be a little bit tired throughout the day, but then around 9, 10 o'clock at night, I would get that second wind that would take me into the evening. So I'd be up again till, 11:30, 12, 1 o'clock in the morning, and then I'd be in that vicious cycle of waking up a little bit later than I wanted to. So go ahead and drop a comment below or a like if that's you, if you can relate to that experience. So you can take some glycine. There's a brand that I recommend or that I've used that's also in the description below. Take the glycine, that'll definitely be helpful. Some people recommend niacin, but I personally feel glycine is going to give you more bang for your buck. In addition to that, if you're talking about balancing your cortisol levels throughout the day, in general, you may want to invite some herbal formulations into the mix while you are balancing your methylation. In general, we want to prioritize minerals, vitamins, and then herbs. The unfortunate truth of the supplement industry today is that they're usually pushing herbs on you, so tier 2 and tier 3 supplements on you, without actually addressing your root cause or your foundational health as a whole. So things like adaptogens, functional mushrooms, all of these are great, especially when they're sourced in an intentional way, but they aren't going to really fix a broken foundation. So in particular, there's two that I would use. I'm pretty sensitive to adaptogens, so sometimes I can tell when they've just been sourced in a very willy-nilly kind of way. Sometimes they're just too sedating or they're too stimulating, like the cordyceps and all that stuff. So one is called Adrenal Soothe, that has ashwagandha, Chinese skullcap, phosphatidylcholine, all that kind of stuff. So really good supplement, and you can even take it during the day. Another one is from a company called Anima Mundi, and these it's a tincture, it's drops, but I wouldn't recommend taking the recommended dose. I would take much lower than that because I find it to be I wouldn't say sedating, but very calming and grounding, you could say. So that's what I would do in addition to the modified methylated B vitamin protocol. Another thing I do want to mention is that if you feel or you're unsure if you are totally intolerant to methylfolate, and let's say you are just a little bit overstimulated, like you aren't entirely anxious and dysregulated, you could say, you could try taking methylfolate drops. And I would start at around 72 micrograms. There are methylfolate drops, link is in the description below. And you may want to titrate, so just starting with that 72 and then building up until the 400 range or something like that. The reason I bring this up is because if you've been in an let's say an undermethylated state for a very long period of time, suddenly you introduce a relatively high dose of methylated B vitamins, this may be a little bit too much for your system. However, that doesn't mean that you don't need them at all. It just means that your body's been accustomed to undermethylation, and now having these B vitamins in their bioavailable form is a bit overstimulating for you. So this could also be a different approach if you are not quite reaching those levels of anxiety, or if you just want to experiment with introducing methylfolate. All right, so now that we discussed the workaround protocol and you know kind of what to do, let's maybe discuss some of the possible underlying root causes and other things you could do to maybe address why you are unable to tolerate methylated B vitamins and the other experiences, or the other symptoms that you're likely experiencing. So the first one is something called SIBO, or small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. So methylfolate in particular can act as a growth factor for yeast and bacteria in the gut, which is then going to exacerbate digestive-based issues. So you'll know for sure if this is one of your root causes, because you're going to have a lot of digestive-based issues, whether that be oscillating from constipation to diarrhea, a lot of bloating, especially beneath the belly button. So that's kind of the key differentiator between bloating kind of in the top part of the stomach versus in the small intestine, is like you're going to have that bottom bloat, so to speak. So that's one of the telltale signs. And if you want to find out for sure if this is one of your root causes, there's a lab test you can run at home called the Candida vitamins and bacteria test. So you can go ahead and find that in the description below. That's a test that I run every year. It also includes a neurotransmitter panel, which helps you understand how well you're producing neurotransmitters from your gut, as well as you kind of get your vitamin B12, vitamin B6, and vitamin B9 or folate as well in there. So you'll kind of get a sense of your B vitamin status as well. So definitely one that I would take on an annual basis. And from there, if it turns out that you do have small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, fortunately there's a lot of protocols out there that you can work with. And the one that I do, if you choose to not actually do the lab test because you know for a fact that these symptoms absolutely line up with what you feel, The protocol, 3-month protocol, is in the description below as well. The next root cause that you may want to consider is an inability to buffer the stimulating effects of methyl B vitamins. So, all right, so one of the next root causes to consider is just transitioning from a low methylated state to a high methylated state, meaning you're unable to really buffer the stimulating effects of methylated B vitamins. This is, of course, a temporary transition, but doesn't change the fact that it can be really uncomfortable. One thing to note is that methylfolate helps you hold on to glycine. The reason that this matters is because glycine is a precursor to our calming neurotransmitter called GABA. So if you have a methylfolate deficiency, then you are likely going to have a glycine deficiency, which means you are more predisposed to being anxious or having a dysregulated nervous system. Of course, our biology and our neurotransmitters are not this simple, but it does increase the likelihood that you may experience these types of symptoms. So just like I mentioned earlier in the video, what this means is not so much that you need to use the workaround that I mentioned, although you could certainly do that for a short amount of time. You may want to actually use the methylfolate drops and get yourself into a balanced methylated state, because you're going from undermethylation and then being pulled right into overmethylation, and your body's having a reaction. So, doing the having the glycine with the methylfolate drops with maybe the B-, this could be a nice balance for you. So that's the second root cause that you may want to look into. So the next root cause is histamine-based issues. So many people with histamine-based issues have trouble taking supplements that support methylation because of the relationship between N-methyltransferase and diamine oxidase. That's a bit of a mouthful, isn't it? So diamine oxidase is more colloquially known as DAO, D-A-O. So in short, if you have histamine-based issues, and I mean, there's a lot that could be said about histamine-based issues, but I suppose for now, you may have headaches, runny nose, nausea, insomnia, symptoms like that when you eat anything that is smoked, cured, or fermented. So you can think of that as, smoked meats, red wine, many cheeses, kombucha, kimchi, many teas as well have histamines as well. So basically those are the symptoms you would get, and especially if your histamine issues are originating in your gut, which many times they are, you're going to have some trouble with any supplements that support methylation. So what can you do if this is the case for you? So for one, I'd recommend doing a histamine elimination diet. So just not having any histamine-based foods, or really limiting the number of histamine-based foods. So you could first of all take a histamine blocker, something like diamine oxidase. So you could do that in addition to taking your methylated B vitamins. So that would be one approach. Another would be to actually address the root cause of your histamine-based issues. This is the course of action that I would recommend the most. And in the meantime, do the workaround that I mentioned earlier, which is the Hydroxo B12 with the Folinic Acid, plus the B- supplement. And then once those histamine-based issues are gone or significantly decreased, you can have histamine-based foods without much of an issue. Then you can introduce the B vitamins slowly. You may want to use the dropper or just lower dosages of methylated B vitamins. There's a lot I could say here, a lot that could be said. This is a really big topic. If you're interested in a video on histamine-based issues, go ahead and drop a comment below. I'd be happy to share a little bit more about specific protocols and approaches to addressing histamine-based issues. There is a really helpful resource that I found for oxalate challenges, histamine-based issues, which is mastcell360.com. I think this is a really good website. They have detailed diets, recipes, and protocols there. So I feel that would be a really good place to check out if you've been experiencing things like, oxalate poisoning, mast cell activation, or histamine-based issues. Definitely check them out. The last thing I want to mention here is so sometimes people feel a little bit of overactivation or overstimulation from methylated B vitamins because they've made some drastic lifestyle changes. I'll give you an example. So like once I had a client who removed alcohol from, basically they have MTHFR, they started abstaining from drinking alcohol. They came back to me about a month later and noticed like, look, I'm really dysregulated, like I'm very anxious, very overactive, and don't feel grounded at all. And after digging a little bit deeper into what they've been feeling, what they've introduced into their diet, supplementation, wellness protocols, etc., I realized that actually we were overdoing the methylated B supplements or the methylation support in general. The reason for this is because they had actually removed a lot of their toxins from their life. So they had cleaned up their kitchen. They no longer were drinking alcohol. They were no longer really taxing their methylation system and their detoxification pathways. So they actually needed a lot less methylation support than they did just a few months prior. So this is also something to keep in mind, is that if you are in a stage of your life where you are not consuming as many toxins, you are living a quote unquote clean lifestyle, it's very possible that you don't quite need as much methylation support as you did before, which is perfectly fine. This is something that I've experienced as well, where I used to take a lot more methylation supporting vitamins. Now I just take 1 or 2 capsules. So this is also something to keep in mind, something that I've had come up with clients, because your methylation protocol is going to evolve over time, especially as you get healthier, fitter, and more balanced. So that's pretty much it for today. I hope this was helpful. I hope this addressed some of the reasons why you may be feeling a little bit dysregulated, a little bit anxious when you're taking especially the methyl B12 and the methylfolate. If you got value from this video, go ahead and drop me a comment, hit the like button, and subscribe to this channel, and join me on this journey as we help empaths, highly sensitive people, and those on the spiritual path thrive in body and mind. May you be happy, may you be healthy, and may you move through this life with ease. Much love to you all, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye.